Haha, I finally got my standing tripod working! Today we are going to be reading A Court of Silver Flames. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm finally at this bad boy. I don't have to give you guys the same warnings that I did in the past videos because I know no spoilers for this book. I know nothing. I know that it's about Nesta. I know nothing else. I don't know the plot. I don't know what people are thinking about it. I have skipped every single spoilery, non-spoilery thought, opinion. When I go on Goodreads to add this to my currently reading, I'm gonna block out the rating. I have no clue. This book could be a 3-star on Goodreads. This book could be a 5-star on Goodreads. While I have been making my own fair opinion and judgment of the previous books, there is always a part of you that kind of reflects it based off of what you've seen other people think, whether or not you agree with them or disagree with them. So it'll be really nice to go into this book fresh and just me. I will be saying for the final time, there will be spoilers about this book and the previous 3 in this video. I haven't read Frost and Starlight yet. Let me know if you think I should vlog my experience reading that. I will be listening to it, so I don't think it'll be worth the experience, but if you're really into that, let me know. This book is like 750 pages, I think. 750 pages, and I have today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to read it. So I need to sit down and knock out a huge chunk of it. 2 more things before we get into the reading part. I am going to be using my 3-color tabbing system. I kind of have to go between some different tabs in order to get it. So I'm definitely going to be using orange as my love color because I think it just looks really nice with the orange of the cover and I like them matching. I'm going to be doing purple for my important just because I have a lot of those left over on these extra tabs, and I'm going to be using yellow for my hate. I wanted to use a different color, but I have used yellow for my hate on all 3 previous books, so I thought it would just make the most sense to keep going. The final thing, oh my goodness, I was looking for these. I knew that I had set up tabs somewhere that had orange, yellow, and purple on them. They were in the book. Past me was taking care of present me was being dumb. The final thing we need to do before I start this bad boy is I'm gonna make a prediction. Now this prediction means absolutely nothing because I know one fact about this book, that it's about Nesta, and I know that I love Nesta, but in all the previous videos I have made a prediction about what I was going to rate this book. Before I started book 1, I actually made a prediction to a friend and I said I was gonna rate this book 4 out of 5 stars, or did I say 4.5 out of 5 stars? I'm gonna have to go back and look at that text message. I think I'm gonna rate this book either a 4.5 or a 5-star. I'm gonna be generous after book 3 kind of let me down. I'm just gonna say a 4.5, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Sarah J. Maas will pull it out and do it. I didn't make it as far as I wanted to tonight, but I did make a chunk through the book. So I'm on page 82, which looks like this, and I feel like not a lot has happened, but there is things that I need to be talking to you about, so I guess let's just get started. So far we had an opening scene where Nesta kind of like had a flashback to being inside the cauldron, which was so powerful and impactful, and then we kind of have her just struggling to survive and to make it in this world. She's back at is it called Valeris, this city, the like basically paradise city, and she's just not feeling it. She is mourning, she is drinking herself into excess and having sex with random strangers and gambling away all of her money, and she feels like no one is mourning like she is and that she's basically been abandoned. And then we're also having Cassian's POV, which honestly at this point I'm not totally sure why, and I'm not in love with the fact that we're having his POV, but it is what it is and I can't change that. I've also had a few like moments in the book where I feel like Sarah J. Maas is trying to convince us that they're supposed to be together, but she isn't convinced that they're supposed to be together. And just based on Sarah J. Maas's track record in the past, I don't trust first romances. I don't trust it. I mean, we had Kale, and then we had Tamlin, and now we're having Cassian, so I will not be shocked if they aren't the ones to be together. Also, I don't ship them together, so that's probably why I'm feeling that. He had some like weird vibes from her, especially like at this one point he said that he heard her footsteps and he instantly got into a fighting stance. Like, that's not how you're supposed to feel about your significant other now, is it? So the first moment that I really felt like I didn't agree with stuff that Feyre was doing in this book was when she invites commands Nesta to come over to her house, and Nesta enters the house and starts to think about how Feyre has painted a portrait of everyone she loves in her life and put it on the walls, but hasn't painted one of Nesta yet. And I understand that Nesta has been very harsh and has been pushing herself away and has been not making things easy for them. But let's be real, like Feyre isn't doing her share to help heal Nesta and isn't being super impactful. And the fact that she painted paintings of literally her father but not of Nesta to put into her home is so hurtful, and I was in pain reading that. On page 22, we actually already have the reason why this book is called Silver Flames. I get it. I just wish that there was an and in there still, because it doesn't follow the trend of the rest of the books, and that makes me sad. This page apparently really impacted me because I tabbed it 4 times, so let's see what that says. Well, Nesta gets angry and says that I am not a thing to be controlled by you, which I liked. I agree. She is not an object to be controlled by these people. She is her own person. But then also she mentions that whenever she hears a fire crackling, it reminds her of the sound of her father's neck being snapped, which was so impactful, let me tell you. And then Nesta gets angry because they basically are taking away this home that she's built for herself, and they are forcing her to live in the House of Winds and train with Cassian. And she gets really angry because they're taking away the one item in her life that she has chosen for herself, is this house. All of her life growing up, her decisions were made for her by her mother or her father, and she basically felt like that's where she was going to get stuck. She didn't choose to be Fae. She didn't choose to live in this city. She didn't choose for any of this to happen. Well, the only thing she has really chosen for herself was that house, and then Feyre just showed up and said, you're not doing well enough to take care of this, so we're taking it away from you. And they forced her to move back into the home where she had lived with Elaine when Elaine wasn't doing well, except Elaine's not there now, so she's utterly and completely alone. And it was just devastating reading that and realizing, like, they're trying their best, I understand, but their best is not what Feyre needs. And if they sat and talked with her about this, and of course Feyre is not being open to them, but if they could open up a line of communication, this would just go so much better. But then Feyre also points out that she's done paying for things that will destroy Nesta. She's done aiding Nesta in Nesta's decision to destroy herself. And I get that there is a certain point where you do have to just cut people off because you helping them isn't helping them anymore. But I think that Feyre went about helping Nesta in the wrong way, and that it could have been done a little bit better. There's a lot of yellow coming up, and I don't want you to think that I am disliking this book. I'm enjoying my read, a lot of it, but there's a lot happening in this book that I do not like and I do not agree with, and I think it's there because Sarah J. Maas wants me to not like it. So I got really angry when Feyre said that Elaine went and packed all of Nesta's things up, because that didn't even give Nesta the option to go back to her home and say goodbye, or to pick which items she brought to her house or which items she needed. They literally were treating her like a small child and choosing for her, and that's not a great decision. And then Moore is just being jealous once again, and she's just not being great. Like, she has this like jealous female energy whenever Cassian and Nesta are like around each other, and I really don't like it. At this one point she said we'd be better off throwing Nesta into the Court of Nightmares. She'd thrive there. And I'm like, this woman is healing from trauma, from a lifetime of trauma. She was almost raped by her fiance, or she was raped by her fiance. She survived through a war. She watched her father die right in front of her. It's been a lot, and you're not even listening to what she needs or trying to stand up for her or helping her in any way whatsoever. So Moore, I do not like you right now. You are really getting on my nerves. And then the way that Cassian just talks about Moore, like, he can't seem to stop talking about how pretty she is, and I'm like, dude, either be with her or don't be with her. Stop trying to be like, oh, we're best buds, but also she's like super hot. I don't like that. Then there was this part that Nesta remembered her mother, like thinking back on her, and she remembers her mother saying to her, "My Nesta, Elaine shall wed for love and beauty, but you, my cunning little queen, you shall wed for conquest." And I really liked that line. I hope that we get more of the relationship between Nesta and her mom moving on farther in the book, because the little bits we've gotten so far have been so impactful. And then Moore literally shows up and looks at Nesta and says, "My vote would have been dropping you off in the human lands. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to give you a chance at all." And I'm like, damn, girl, you don't care about these people. You care about yourself, and you want Cassian to love you forever and Azrael to love you forever. You've been stringing both of these boys along. Oh, they're both too good for you. We do get this great moment after Nesta goes and works in the library where she's finally hungry for the first time since before the war, and it was such a beautiful moment because even she like didn't quite realize it, how important that was to her, and I really liked that. We did have this really heartbreaking moment, and I read it to a friend earlier and I honestly almost cried while I was reading it out loud. So Nesta is working in the library, and the library is run by a lot of women priestesses who have gone through rape or abuse previous in their life, and this is a place where they can heal. So it's such a great place for Nesta to be going to and working, and I really feel like she's going to heal so much being here. But she was looking at one of the Fae, Clotho, while she was working. She was staring at her and she was trying to get Clotho to read her mind. And so she was thinking really strongly at Clotho, and she was thinking, I am worthless and I am nothing. I hate everything that I am, and I am so, so tired. I am tired of wanting to be anywhere but in my own head. And Clotho, of course, either reads her mind and doesn't do anything, or doesn't read her mind and is giving her privacy. But it was just so impactful and powerful. And that's my update for the first 10% of this book. I am getting, oh, you probably hear the fan. It's really loud. I'm getting so much more into this book. It's 11 p.m. I haven't stayed up till 11 p.m. in a long time, and it's gonna suck because I'm getting up in about 6.5 hours. So I know for most people they can function on barely any sleep. 6 hours for me is barely any sleep. I like to get 8 hours every single night, and I haven't been sleeping well this week. I really, really enjoy Nesta's parts of these stories. I'm not gonna go into great detail about it now because I'm tired and I'm really hoping I'll just pass out. I feel like I can't put it down, which is a good feeling. Even though I don't necessarily think it's a 5-star, I'm hooked. And that's nice. I should say though, I made it to page 160. We're sitting again. It's been a few days. I had a lot of personal stuff come up, which meant that there was 0 reading over the past few days. But this morning I was able to wake up and read, and then I've been able to read on my lunch break, and then I just came home and did some more reading. And I got to part 2, which is called Blade. And that means that I'm at 270. And I think the last time I talked to you all, I was at page 80. So it's probably time I came and talked to you. Here's what my tabbing is looking like. There's a lot of yellow, but there's also a lot of orange showing up in the last bit. My book is warping because it's been sitting in my car and it's very hot here in Florida. And let's see if I can make the noise. My book now makes that noise every single time I open it. So I'm a little bit concerned that it's just gonna fall apart while I'm reading it. But I guess as long as I have all of the pages, it did it again. I can just keep reading, right? There's been a lot that I've been disliking, but I think that honestly, a lot of it is something that Sarah J. Maas is trying to do, or Sarah J. Maas just doesn't know how to write Feyre and Rysand's relationship from an outside perspective, because a lot of my yellow tabs are me not liking them. He's just being overprotective and overbearing, and I don't like it or appreciate it. And I know that she's pregnant, but it just still felt like way too much. And then my other yellow tabs are, I just feel like I'm noticing a lot of red flags between Cassian and Nesta. And I think that Sarah J. Maas is trying to tell me that they're not going to end up together. Maybe they'll stay together through this whole entire book, but I have read other Sarah J. Maas books. This one and Crescent City are so far the only 2 that I haven't read, and so far out of all the other ones I've read, Sarah J. Maas has tricked us into thinking that the first guy is going to be the guy, and then he's not the guy. So I don't think Cassian is going to end up with Nesta. I think they're too close together. I think they're both too hot-headed. I think that they're not good for each other. But beyond that, I've just noticed some things that either he's thinking or she's thinking about each other that just kind of stand out to me as red flags. And when I was having these red flag warnings from Tamlin, it ended up being a real thing. I'm gonna keep that in mind if Nesta gets another book or how this one ends. We'll see. I'm gonna be curious. Let's talk about some of the things I'm loving. Basically every single Nesta chapter. I don't really care about Cassian's point of view. Don't you love how I started this out by saying, let's talk about something I'm loving, and then I went straight into something I'm not loving? It's because I'm going to compare the two. I don't like Cassian's chapters. I really feel like his chapters weren't necessary to the book. I feel like we could have done without them. I would love to do a reread of this where I just read Nesta's parts and see if the book makes just as much sense. There have been maybe 2 little sections of his that I've enjoyed, but overall either I've felt meh about them, or I've disliked them, or I've just not cared about what he's thinking or feeling or doing. And a lot of his chapters are world building and plot building, but I just think that we could have altered them slightly and given them to Nesta instead, and we could have like really focused on her in this book instead of him and her together. But maybe that's going to be important when they break up later, possibly in the second book, because we'll need to know how he's doing or how he's feeling. Speaking of, there was a part where he literally said, hold on, let me find it, I tabbed it. Cassian didn't regret what he'd done with her, not at all. And maybe it was the fact that it had been 2 years since he had any sort of sex, but he couldn't remember the last time he'd been so ridden by his own base needs. Some small, quiet part of his brain whispered otherwise. He ignored it, had ignored it for a long time now. That tells me right there that Cassian has someone that he likes and he wants to be with, and he's ignoring the part of him that wants to be with them. Oh my God, there was this amazing scene after they had like fooled around a little bit the first time, and then Nesta and Cassian were like downstairs at breakfast together, and they were trying to act normal, like nothing had happened. I have laughed so many times in this book. It's enjoyable, and I catch myself laughing at it. So Cassian was like getting distracted up in his head, just thinking about the night before. He says, what are you reading? And she says, a romance. And he says, I gathered that. What's this one about? And then a little bit later, you know, he's starting to get distracted and everything. And she goes, the book is about a book. And he says, interesting. Sounds great. And then he gets up from the table and leaves. If that's not the funniest shit you've ever read, I don't know what it is. Like, that is so relatable on both parts. So Nesta is trying to convince the priestesses that work in the library to come and train with her. And a lot of them don't want to do it because they have been physically abused or raped or just emotionally manipulated, taken advantage of by men. And so they don't like leaving the library because they don't like running into men, and they don't want to train because Cassian would be there. So Nesta does this thing where she puts up a sign-up sheet, she talks to a few of them, tries to convince them to come. None of them really want to come, but she truly believes that the training is helping her get past her struggles, and that it would help them get past their struggles because they would feel stronger and they would feel like they could protect themselves if anything were to ever happen again. So she finally tricks Cassian into coming down into the library and like training her for a little bit down there where some of the women can see, and it convinces one of them, her name's Gwen, to sign up. And that's right where I've left off. Guys, I ship Gwen and Nesta so hard. I totally feel like Nesta has bisexual vibes or pansexual vibes. I like do not believe that she is fully straight, but I just think the two of them would be so good together. Like, I feel like they've both been through a lot, just like Cassian and Nesta have both been through a lot, but they have different personalities, and they seem to have this really good like bouncing off of each other where they don't get aggressive and they don't get afraid of each other like Cassian and Nesta do, but they seem to understand each other really well, and I just love it. And when I read the part where Gwen finally signed up, I teared up because I was so happy for her. Like, yes, she's going to start doing this, and she's gonna start getting past her pain and her struggles, and she's going to start thriving again, and I'm there for it. Can we talk about the fact that like everyone freaking kisses Rysand's butt? Oh my God, it annoys the hell out of me. Like, everyone in the book except for Nesta like worships him, and I cannot figure out why. Like, Nesta will literally just be like, oh, he's an ass to me, and they're like, don't speak bad about him, and I'm like, why not? He's a human being. He's a fae. He's a fae. He has pros and cons. He's done bad things in his life, and he's done a lot of good for you guys, but he has done some horrible things and not been nice to Nesta specifically. And if she wants to say like, yeah, he's a fine leader, I respect him, he can do whatever he wants there, but he's not nice to me and I don't really like him as a person, that's valid, and she's allowed to say that, and she's not like dissing your leader or dissing your friendship with him. And I wish that Cassian and Azrael would stop like coming at her whenever she's doing that, because it makes him feel like a dictator, and I don't like that look for him. Like, Sarah J Maas is kind of messing up Rysand and Feyre in this book, because she's making Feyre look weak and like just a submissive housewife who has no opinion and doesn't like enjoy anything and just kind of lays around and paints pretty pictures and is pregnant. And then Rysand is looking like this dictator who doesn't really care about his people, but has convinced them just to let him be the ruler and that he knows best and they should all just listen to him. And that's not how they are, and that's not how they have been in any of the previous books. So I feel like Sarah J Maas just lost her connection with those two characters, because it's really kind of sucking that this is how they're being interpreted in this book. There's also these really cool 3 artifacts that we're going to be finding, and I'm glad that they brought them up in this book, because in the last book they mentioned that the cauldron had made something, like some kind of artifact, and that's all they said about it. But in this book they're going more in depth with that. As I don't really know much about them yet, and the plot is, I'm assuming, is going to continue on talking about them more later, I'm not going to talk about it now. Oh my god, I love the fact that when Nesta and Cassian are like fooling around, that he asks for a verbal yes from her before doing like anything. Like, he'll ask for a yes, but then also when he moves on to do other things, he like asks for a yes again. And it was just such a great moment. I do also appreciate that he felt bad that he had completed and she hadn't, but like, I'm really glad that he felt bad and that he wanted to like make it up to her. But some of the language he was using, where he was like trying to make even and trying to pay her back and stuff, I'm like, well, in a relationship, yeah, you want to make sure that you're like pleasing the other person, but also like it's not about balancing a score and it's not about getting even. So let's like do less of that talking and let's do something else with your mouth, Cassian, because you did a lot better when you weren't talking. Their sex scene was so much raunchier than any that Feyre and Rysand had. I was reading it on my lunch break today and I was literally like, and then I had to go back and I was like, how am I supposed to face people having read what I just read? Like, it was so much more graphic, and I think I liked it more than chapter 55 of book 2, which is the one that everyone always talks about, but I don't know for sure. I don't know. I'm hoping that there'll be more sex scenes in this, because I feel like book 3 was really slacking on like good raunchy smut. And this one has already like made up for it with 2 scenes. Oh my god, Nesta fantasizing about having a threesome with Azrael and Cassian is what I live for. I also fantasize about Azrael having a sex scene at some point. That would be very nice, and I would definitely read that book. In fact, I might frame that page and put it on my wall, and every person who comes into my room would get to like read it with me. Sarah J Maas, please write that. Also, the line "Az had a vicious competitive streak," please let that come back in some kind of sexual context later. Can you guys tell that I really like Azrael? I want him to be happy, I want him to get over more, and I want him to either be with Elaine or to be with Nesta or to be with some other woman. I don't care who at this point, just not more, and I want him to be happy. And I want to read about his happiness. I made it to page 400 last night. It's what I wanted, so I'm really happy. I read a lot yesterday and it felt really good. My goal today is page 600, but I got some great news this morning, so I've been kind of not focusing on reading. I've been focusing on other things, to be completely honest. So where I'm at, Nesta, I was about to say Feyre, has found the mask. So I kind of know a little bit more about these different items, and the mask is this item that the wearer can like basically reanimate the dead and use them however they want, and they were kind of considering using them as soldiers, but really mostly we were keeping the mask away from bad people, right? So Nesta found it and used it, and she somehow has this ability, because she and the mask were both made by the cauldron, that she could take it off, but it's still calling to her. And her and Cassian are still doing their thing. She's still training with those other women. Might feel that they're bonded, but I don't want them to be bonded. They need to grow a lot before I'm gonna be okay with the 2 of them being together. And honestly, even then, I'm gonna be a little bit weird about the fact that like there were these sisters and there are these brothers, and out of the groups, 2 of them from each were destined to be together, and I'm still cheering for Elaine and Azrael. So like, if I get what I want and this goes through, all 3 of them work for all 3 of them, and it's just a bit odd. Hey, hi, hello. So I was reading last night and this just fell out of my book completely. So My copy is a piece of shit. I've just got back from a workout and I've been doing some reading. I am very close to page 500, and we basically just had this scene where Cassian, Rhysand, Azrael, and Amren have been keeping a secret from Nesta about her ability to like create these items like the cauldron could create, and that she has already created these 3 weapons. And she finds out because Cassian lets it slip like an idiot, and she gets really angry and goes to yell at Amren because it's finally time to like deal with the shit that she's been like hiding from us about her feelings towards Amren. Like her and Amren have been fighting for a while and we don't totally know why as the reader. So when she gets there, someone warns Feyre. Amren and Nesta are fighting. Feyre shows up to kind of step in, and what happens is, in that anger, Rhysand has been keeping a secret from Feyre, and Rhysand told Cassian and Azrael, and Cassian let it slip to Nesta, like when they were, I think it was like right before they made love one time. Nesta angrily is talking about how they kept things from her and says, well, Feyre, they're keeping things from you too, and tells Feyre about the fact that her child is basically going to die in her womb because she doesn't have the proper birthing canal to birth a child with wings. It was said out of anger, and Nesta shouldn't have said it like that. But one of the most important things to me is honesty, especially in a relationship, especially in a loving relationship. And I don't think you should hide things like that from people. So the fact that Rhysand then threatened to kill Nesta and basically exiled her from the city makes me very angry. And Rhysand isn't blaming himself for the situation. He is only blaming Nesta, and he is saying that she is at fault and that she is wrong. And I think he's wrong. I think Nesta, while she did do it for a horrible reason, is correct that they should have trusted Feyre. She's this strong woman. She helped them win this war. They said a long time ago that they were going to tell her things. They weren't going to hide things from her, that they were going to work with her. In the first 3 books, Rhysand built this trusting and loving relationship with her, and now he's just hiding things from her because it's going to be difficult, and that doesn't seem right or real. And I think that he's in the wrong. I think that Nesta's in the wrong for saying it out of anger, but I think she did the right thing by telling Feyre, and I think that Rhysand is in the wrong for hiding it from Feyre. And I think that Azrael and Cassian are too far up Rhysand's butt to turn to him and tell him that he's doing something wrong when they know he's doing something wrong. So I'm at page 615. So I have just under 150 pages left. I think I'm gonna aim to finish this bad boy today, honestly. I feel like I'm at the point where there have been just so many sex scenes that I'm like dull to them. Like I don't feel anything anymore. And they've been so raunchy that like, it's almost like Sarah J. Maas is trying to make me uncomfortable, or is trying to, I don't even know exactly. It just doesn't feel real to a certain degree, just how many there are. And at first I was really enjoying them. I was like, yeah, she's doing a good job with them. I think that might partially be because of who I am as a person and less to do with them, but it's like so often at this point. So Nesta just danced with Eris, and he basically was like, oh my god, she's amazing, I want to marry this woman. So he asked Rhysand for her hand in marriage, and Rhysand said he would talk to Nesta. And I was like, dude, if this book ends with Nesta married to Eris, I would laugh. That'd be hysterical, which is not the thing that I should be saying. I just don't like her and Cassian together, so I'm like literally choosing the worst person for her instead. But she just told Cassian that the 2 of them would be together forever and ever and ever, and then I finished. How many pages did I read today? I was at 450 when I woke up, and I read to 750, so 300 pages of this damn book today. This is what my tabs look like at the end. Just for a reminder, yellow is hate, orange is love, and purple is important or plot. Yeah, there's no yellow ones after. When was the last yellow one? Page 665, which basically means the last 100 pages I didn't tab for hate. But I will say the last 100 pages had me confused, isn't the right emotion. It just felt like that part of the plot didn't go with the rest of the book. Nesta, Emery, and Gwyn get kidnapped by the strange winged men beast boys, sent to there's like this competition thing that happens once a year to like get you told that you're a warrior, and you have to like survive in the wilderness for a week with no powers and no weapons, and there's like hundreds of other winged beast boys out there, and if you can climb to the mountain and reach the top, you get like a certain level of status. And so the three women are kidnapped and sent into the ring, and they have to survive these men coming after them and the harsh elements and trying to climb to the top of the mountain and being hunted by hundreds of people. And it just felt kind of weird compared to the rest of the plot of the book, because the rest of it was healing, and this did help Nesta heal a bit, but it kind of came out of nowhere. It felt weird, and I'm not complaining because I enjoyed that part of the book a lot. I really enjoy competitions and people just kind of being thrown into the wilderness and trying to survive. Like the Hunger Games plot is what I want from every single book, basically. But it was just so kind of out there. I kind of wish that I really enjoyed the first 300 pages of this book, and I felt like they were perfect. But from like 300 to 650, I felt like it was too long. And I think we could have shortened that bit and then had more with this like competition bit at the end and them struggling. I just finished the book with like 2 minutes ago, so I'm a little out of it, not gonna lie. I have a headache. That's what happens when I read this much in a day. I really enjoyed the book though, overall, I have to say. All of my previous comments and complaints still stand. I know that this book is going to lead us into another book in this series that has like a giant war. I wish that Elaine's character had more development in this book. I wish that Feyre and Rysand weren't shown as awful as they are. I wish that Cassian and Nesta had more connection besides just a sexual one by the time they were considered mates, because they were shown to be mates at the end of the book, which I don't agree that they should be, but whatever, it's not my decision. The growth that Nesta went through in this book was spot on and so important and so necessary. I understood her motivations and everything that she was going through in this book, but I didn't understand the motivations for necessarily all of the other characters, and I think that a lot of the other characters got just kind of thrown aside in order to focus so much on Nesta and Cassian. Like we barely saw any of Azrael, we barely saw any of Rysand and Nesta, we barely saw any of Elaine, and I was okay with that, except at the end where their plot is supposed to be wrapped up as well, with Feyre having her child, and that's supposed to be important to me. I would have needed a little bit more of them. I really am glad that we focused on these other women, these women training for battle. I'm hoping we get to see them go into battle in the next book. I don't know if the next book is gonna follow Nesta and Cassian or what. I don't care about Cassian. I think this whole entire book could have been written without him having a perspective. I think it could have thrived if it had just been Nesta. I would have rated it 5 stars if it was just Nesta. I think that we 100% could have had the same book, and it could have been a lot shorter than this. I don't know if this book needed to be this long. In fact, my book is breaking apart. How do you crack the spine of a hardback book? Like, I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but I have a crack running right across my spine. I've never cracked the spine of a hardbound book before. Like, what? I think this book is just made out of shit material, to be completely honest, because the spine is pulling out still. I can pull it completely out, and as I was reading at the end, here, I'm going to show you guys just really quickly. As I was reading at the end, it kept falling out. Let's see if it'll do it for you. And I had to hold it. Oh, there it went. I had to hold it in such a certain way that wouldn't fall out. Like, what is this? It completely fell out of my book. And I can see here where the end pages are falling out, both sides, and the glue. Fortunately, all the pages are still stuck together, but I had some issues where some of my pages were like glued together and I had to pull them apart. I think I just got a crappy copy of this book, which sucks because I really enjoyed it. Oh, I should tell you what I ended up rating it. I was kind of on the fence, not gonna lie, between a 4.5 and a 4 star. I really enjoyed the book, but I definitely had some issues with it that kept me from rating it a 5 star, especially just the toxicness. And I did have more yellow tabs, I think, in this book than I've had in the other ones. Maybe not from the first one, I don't know. Let me go get them. Okay, So it's very obvious to me that I did not like, I know you can't see my face, it's hard to do. It's very obvious to me that I did not like the first one as much as the later three, just based on how many tabs I did in general. Yellow is hate in all of the books, but the rest of the colors change, so you can't really make that mean anything. I think I had more yellow in this fourth one than I did in any of the other ones. So I was on the fence about what to exactly rate it, and when I thought about it more and more, I was like, I don't want to rate it a 4 because I rated book 3 a 3.75, and I enjoyed book 4 way more than I enjoyed book 3. But I truly believe that book 1 was a 3.5, and book 3 was better than book 1, and book 4 is better than book 3. It's just getting really confusing and complicated, so I stopped thinking about it and I just said that book 4 is a 4 out of 5 stars. Plain and simple, no point anythings, just gonna leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this series. I guess in the future, if Sarah J Maas releases any more books in this series, I would continue doing this. I plan on reading Frost and Starlight this coming month, but I'm not planning on doing a vlog for it. So my thoughts on that will just be part of a weekly vlog. If you are curious, you can just stay tuned for that. But I have finally finished my readathon of this series. Wow, my brain hurts. So yeah, I guess I would say read it or don't. Do whatever you want. I'm tired and I can't focus anymore, so I'm gonna go. Thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me know your thoughts down below about this book, and you can be fully spoilery about any of the books you want to be about, because I've read all of them at this point, and this is a spoiler vlog, so if people are watching it, they should know not to read any comments. I don't remember how my outro goes, but until next time, I will talk to you in the comments. Bye.